not that we don't trust Kochava or Charles or anybody over there. It's that our app is a little bit different.
Especially Charles.
Yeah, I think that will come up. Most of the apps here, I think, are in-app purchase driven. The majority of our apps are ad supported. And as a result, there's not any in-app purchase information to give back. So that's the reason we're not so worried about it. Now, down the road, we have other apps that will be in-app purchase driven that we hope to release this year. And those, we expect to send back and trust those providers with that information.
But if you're able to send back to your ad providers which ads are performing best for different demographics, they can then help you build out a better set of ads that they're providing to your app, right?
Correct, but the ad providers, at least the ad providers we use, which are different from the in-app purchase or from the install providers, they don't handle that information. They're not set up to take that information. Anyway, so it wouldn't help us.
Well, I think they're starting to. So, ad providers are looking at that user demographic information. They're trying to build out their networks to be more powerful and be more targeted in what ads they're providing to you.
Yeah.
So then, you're not getting shopping apps to somebody that's interested in sports.
Right. I think when they get more sophisticated and the RTBs come about, I think that will be much more useful. But right now, it's certainly in the nascent stage.
Yeah, definitely. The ads on mobile are really, really early stages right now. There's really not a great way to monetize other than maybe pre-rolls or whatever. So, last question we have before we open up the questions is there any tool that we haven't talked about yet today that's interesting or that you think people should go and check out? We can go start with you.
Well, since we have everything internal, I've tested a lot of tools, and having things internal gives us the flexibility, and also, we have a huge operation that spans in Beijing, Vancouver, Middle East, and San Francisco. So I think there are tools out there, I'm sure, and I worked with Flurry before, and other guys that are Contagion and whatnot, but those are the ones that I guess.
Okay, you can hire one of Deniz's engineers. But
Yeah, yes.
All right, Rob?
I don't know if the Machine Zone guys are here. I'd be curious to what the return is on the supermodel tool investment.
Yeah, here Kate Upton is going for a couple million a year, so you should be good.
Seems like a good investment. For me, for a developer, I'm mostly concerned with the SDKs. The more SDKs, the more engineer time I have to put into app development, the less likely I am to put an ad network or a metrics network or a attribution network into my app. So these third parties that are able to kind of aggregate more folks together, those are the tool sets that I'm very interested in. So if I'm able to mix my push messaging with my advertisement, with my my metrics, the more of that we bring together, and the less SDKs and code that I have to be adding into my app for each one of these individual tool sets, I find that to be powerful and more interesting.
I agree. I mean, you don't want any more SDKs than you need to. Our thought about the aggregators is, what is the value proposition that they offer versus their cost, right? And so we have not tended to use them just because we didn't think that we were going to get enough benefit out of them. Again, for us, being an ad-supported network, we're pretty particular about the kinds of ads we want to display in our ads. And by going through an aggregator, we lose a lot of control over that. And so that's another reason we haven't gone that route.
Okay, I've got two tools that I think are very important, at least for me. Number one is for tracking my spend. So prior to working with, I now work with a company called Singular. Prior to working with them, I spent a good amount of my time, weekly, potentially daily, going to individual partners' dashboards and figuring out how much money have I spent today, how much money have I spent this week or this month, and what's my CPI, what's my ROI, all of that. In order to get that data into our system, it's got to come from all of these different data sources. So Singular, like those guys, I like what they're doing, relatively new. Essentially, you give them a login or an API key to each one of the partners you're working with, and they daily go in and pull data out of that partner site, aggregate it all at various levels. And yeah, I think that for me has saved me a bunch of time. So that one is a great tool.
Can you disclose what they charge?
I cannot. I can tell you that their pricing model is based around, well, I mean, yeah. No, I can't tell you what I spend. I can tell you the pricing model is based around your monthly spend. So, you know, if you're in a bucket, the small bucket and you're spending less than $10,000 a month, they charge you X, all the way up to 5 million, 10 million, 20 million plus a month, whatever. Your cost is going to go up. Tool number 2 that I find useful, and there's a few of these guys out there, but I'm using some guys called Pocket Math to do re-engagement or retargeting. So that's something we haven't really talked about here on the panel, but I feel like a gigantic part of user acquisition, and specifically for me, a big part of my budget is shifting towards re-engagement and retargeting. So I pay a bunch of money for individual users. I want to make sure they keep coming back to my game. And sure, a great game will bring them back in, but sometimes that's not enough, right? And so spending money to get these users back is valuable. The guys at Pocket Math basically have a seat on the majority of the RTV exchanges and allow you to just upload a list of device IDs that you may have and target those users specifically outside of Facebook. So I do that on Facebook. This is an outside of Facebook tool.
And what is the ratio that you're seeing? If it costs you, 100 to acquire a user the first time, retargeting, what percentage of that?
In terms of cost for the user? I mean, it's sort of an ongoing thing. So it's an interesting question that we could dive into for a long time. But in general, you're paying per click for re-engagement. So let's say you're paying between $5 and $10 a user to install your game. Getting them back is typically somewhere in the range of 20 to 50 cents per click. Sometimes upwards of $1, depending on how aggressive you want to be. So if you really want to, find your biggest whales because they haven't been back in a week, you put a big bid, aggressive bid out there and pay $1 to get them back in, knowing that they'll probably spend $50 or $100 in the next week.
We also pay about 15 to 40 cents per re-engagement, and we have, like Scott, we have a lot of users that already installed our games, about like 220 million installs total, and we paid a lot of money for those users, and we're using tap owners to actually help us with that.
Yeah, I think the general rule is it's about 10 to 15% to re-engage somebody.
Yeah, I mean, we pay about 15 to 40 cents. So.
Okay. Actually, I'm going to throw one thing in here. One tool you guys should definitely have for all your apps is crash tracking. So you either build it yourself, but we've had pretty good luck with crash analytics and credit
We also
systems.
use credit.
So I'm pretty sure everybody across the board uses them. So if you use only just one tool, make sure you get a crash tracker. I'll help you get better star ratings. Okay, so that wraps up the questions from the board here. But